we're leaving Leh. We have left the main town and now we have hit the highway. The traffic has exponentially increased in Leh over the last few years. The next major village we'll be hitting, inshallah, is the Nimu, the confluence of the Zanskar and the Indus. Nimu of late has become a very important recreational rafting point, and lots of other activities taking place. The Chadar track for the winter also starts from Nimu, but if the icy conditions are not dangerous, then the vehicle takes you all the way up to Chilling to be dropped there to start the Chadar. Nimu had historically been an important point of connect between the winter-locked Zanskar Valley and the main Leh Valley. So this is the very famous magnetic hill strip. It's a linear strip of a road where people have observed that the drag of the motor vehicle gets dropped. It's said that there is some geomagnetic phenomenon that pulls any metallic object and hence increases its drag. We are crossing Saspol, the Saspol village. Then it will be Nirla and Khalase. From Saspol onwards, actually, we skirt the Indus all the way to Khalase, and the road runs parallel to the river. We are passing the very historic Khalase town. This town has been very famous earlier during the days for battles and skirmishes between the invading forces from the south in the west and the Tibetan or the Ladakhi forces from the east. The most important thing about Khalase is that the route changes here. Actually, the Indus Gorge starts a bit down Khalase, and we take a left towards the Lamayuru monastery through the Wanla Gorge to enter Hangral and Upper Pureg. So this is where the road forks out, but earlier the route used to be down the river straight away to Marol and further down to Skardu. The top of the Wanla Gorge has a plateau formation, and on which is the very historic monastery of Lamayuru situated. Lamayuru has a classical moonlandish landscape on some faces of its mountains. It's always been of high interest to tourists. Right now we are ascending the Namakila, which is the first pass we encounter starting Leh to Kargil. Namakila is over 13,000 feet, and it's a barren, dry landscape with blazing sunlight. And probably there was a small settlement just below the pass. And in earlier days, when the caravans used to pass, there were usually settlements, small hamlets, or caravanserais on either side of the pass. And usually a halt was mandatory if the weather was inclement or windy. This is a classical Ladakh landscape, and just imagine 70-80 years ago, and since hundreds of years, caravans laden with pashmina wool, with Chinese porcelain, with silver, with spices from Kashmir, with shawls, with Yarkandi namdas used to be crossing these passes in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Now it's motorized and it just takes us a few hours to reach Kargil. So we are descending Fatula, the first pass we encounter from Leh towards Kargil. It has an altitude of over 13,400 feet above the sea level. Fatula, the landscape on both the sides is a very classical Ladakh Himalayan landscape, barren, divide of any tree, and the sun blazingly strikes it. I can imagine how difficult it would have been for caravans laden with precious commodities and food stocks for hundreds of years crossing this pass. And I don't see a very close water source along the route. And on both sides of the pass, there are small hamlets now which would have been much smaller earlier, or could have been caravanserais, as it was mandatory to hold the caravan if the pass was not possible. That is, if the weather was inclement or stormy, or it was raining. There used to be many caravanserais all the way from Srinagar to Leh. Most of them are no more there, and some of them that are left are quite dilapidated. Usually it was a 14 days march from Srinagar to Leh on this route, which was then called the Treaty Route. So we are approaching the beautiful village of Hanaskut. Hanaskut is situated in a valley between the two passes, that is the Fatula and the Namakila. And Hanaskut has local historical significance. It has the Lonpo house. Lonpos were the prime ministers during the Ladakhi king rules. And later, when the Ladakhi kingdom was no more, they were small landholders. And there is a Lonpo house in Hanaskut, which in fact has been converted into a heritage house. Hanaskut has been a beautiful hamlet surrounded by lush green fields, and it's also famous for starting point of some tracks and expeditions towards the Suru Valley and Rangdom area of Kargil. We have crossed the Fatula, crossed the village of Kargil, and now we have started ascending towards Namakila, which is the second pass coming from Leh towards Kargil. The terrain is the same, typical Ladakh, barren, with blazing sun. Kargil is a very beautiful bowl between the two passes, and it's an important connection to the Indus Valley directly through Chikhtan. And one can take the Chikhtan route and come down to Hanu, Batalik, Ambotingla, and then to Kargil. It would take about 3 hours more, but it's worth a drive through the Indus Gorge. This was the Namakila, the second pass on the way from Leh towards Kargil. We are descending actually towards the upper Purig Valley, the area close to Pashkum. And the first village we'll touch is Mulbek. Mulbek is famous for many things, of course, for the Chamba statue, renowned Chamba statue. Only 3 of its type in the Suru belt. And Mulbek also long back had a royal family, and probably they have a dilapidated palace. And from Mulbek onwards, a linguistic transition also takes place, ethno-linguistic. We are entering predominantly Balti area. And that can be evident from the type of dressing and the dialect spoken. Of course, other things are also different from what it is in mainland Ladakh. That is in terms of food, in terms of agricultural practices, animal rearing, other aspects of daily life. But nevertheless, there is a close link also with the Bodic culture of mainland Ladakh, that is Leh in Ladakh. So you see the classical landscape, barren, deserted, and we're descending towards Mulbek. So we have reached Mulbek village, and that's the first village after you cross Namakila. And we are in the upper Purig area, very close to Pashkum. Mulbek is very famous for its Chamba statue, and it's now has a small Gompa also close adjacent to it. And Mulbek was important in the olden days as it housed a royal family. And the royal family of Mulbek has a link with the royal family of Zangla. So the current princess of Zangla belongs to Mulbek. So it's a nice hamlet, and here you can see a transition. From here onwards, it's predominantly a Balti area, and you can see some significant changes in attire, in dialect, and in cuisine. And further down, we will hit the beautiful lush green valley of Pashko, and then next would be Kargil. Now we are approaching to the very, very famous rock relief work of Chamba, which is about 20 feet in height, deep relief, and we can turn the camera if you can get a better idea of it. So it's very historic. It's one of the 3 Chambas in the Suru catchment. Mulbek one is the most famous. Then we have the Apati, and then we have the Khatchaka. The other 2 statues are exposed, but this one in Mulbek has been, the lower portion has been included and covered into a fair area. So it's to really appreciate the Mulbik Chamba, I would advise people to scale up the adjacent spur for about 100 odd meters, and you can have wonderful views of this sculpture. We are opening into the valley, the lush green upper Pashkam, and it gets greener as we enter the valley floor of Purik, that's Kargil. It gets greener and greener because many small river systems start flowing towards this valley.
I think this must be the southernmost part where Buddhism approaches
Exactly. Yeah. Then we have a pocket in Rangdom, which is again very close to the main Himalayan wall, and it has 3 villages. They're scattered around, and after that you have a Tanzila. You cross the watershed, and Zanskar is exclusively a Buddhist area, subscribing to Tibetan Buddhism philosophy. This is the mosque at Pashkam, with a beautiful backdrop of a rocky cliff. Pashkam is like an oasis in a desert. It's very green because you can appreciate it's got a lot of trees around, because it gets drained by many streams coming from the adjacent side valleys. Pashkam is actually the gateway to the Kargil town, and we just have to cross a plateau and we drop into Kargil. The landscape again around Pashkam is really very beautiful. Though the high reaches are like classical Ladakh barren dry, but the valley floor is lush green, having some resemblance to the proximal valley of Sindh across the Himalayas. There's another mosque here with a typical Iraqi type dome. So we have reached Kargil. We are closing in into the town, and this is, you can see the Suru Nala coming all the way from Panzila from a distance of about 150 kilometers. This will further go down to meet the Dras Nala and then flow northeast westerly direction towards Kargil. Kargil is a town situated on the banks of Suru Nala. It's divided into 2 sides. One is the Pion side, that's actually the older side, and the new side, the green area you see above is the Baru. That's the new colonization. Kargil is congested a lot now, and the struggle for flatland is very high here. So Kargil actually is really struggling for space, and you can see the houses are actually on sheer vertical inclines. I don't know how safe it is, but it's just because that there is a severe scarcity of flat area close to the town.